Hi, my name is Taylor York, for those who don't know me, and my senior project was on representation in the media and how it affects innocent police officers. So why I wanted to do this was, last year, some of you might remember that Colin Hooper and I got into a really big argument in class about police violence and how it really is viewed. And what happened is people started to not focus on what I was saying, they started focusing on what was happening. There was Taylor York, the law junkie, versus Colin Hooper, the original man bun. And this is what I wanted. What I wanted people to do was I wanted people to, open their minds to another side of the story and really think about what I was trying to say. What caused the dispute was probably the fact that I was being interrupted a lot, and that made me angry. And he responded to my anger. But what also happened is I'm really, really bad with my words. And if you guys haven't figured that out yet, by the end of this presentation, you will. So, to start off, what I wanted to do was figure out a way that I could calmly communicate what I was trying to say to the audience. And I figured art was the best way. And to start off, I'm in the graphic arts program in CRTC, and working there, I get the best stuff I can work with, in the best studio I can probably imagine. My home, with nothing. And I went through a lot of struggles with this because I went through 2 computers, and I went through so many files and restarts. But I really did enjoy this. Now, when I made this way, I wanted it to be a calm way where I wasn't pointing my finger at you saying you should think this, and you weren't pointing at me thinking I should think this. I made this so that the media wouldn't tell you what to think, nor would your teacher. I made this comic so that you can read it and think for yourself. You can read at your own pace in a calm way and think what you want to think and make your own assumption. Now, I want to make this calm, but I also want to make it relatable. Not in a relatable way where you, yourself, be like, oh, I do that, that's really cool. But someone we all know. And I picked Sergeant Luigi. Sergeant Luigi is an officer here in Bow, and she's really fun, and she's loud, and she's just very in your face. And we all know that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make the character in my story a cop from a small town like Bow. And I wanted him to know everyone, and I want everyone to know him. And what I did was, when I drew it, I drew him in full detail, but everyone else I drew in silhouettes. Because what happens with officers is they don't see you as an individual, they don't see your skin, they don't see what you're wearing, they see you as someone who broke the law. And that's what I wanted to show. Now, what I think a reason why we like Sergeant Luigi better is that she's always here with us. She's always talking to us. So we think, oh, she's really fun, I like Sergeant Luigi better. But I don't think we also know all of the officers that work in Bow. These are all the officers that work in Bow, including our K-9 unit, Roxy. You might be able to point out a few names, thinking, I know them, they pulled me over once. I know them, they pulled me out of a ditch once. And I think this is a really good example of we only know one, we only really know one officer. But I don't think we really know her enough. Sergeant Luigi is a very fun officer. She's worked here in Bow for over 9 years. And through 9 years, she's been a juvenile officer, an acting chief, communications supervisor. She's currently a patrol supervisor, firearms instructor, and resource officer in Bow. She's a master sergeant. She's also a member of the NH Air National Guard since 1986. She served active duty in the Gulf War and was activated twice due to 9/11 with tours in Kuwait and Diego Garcia. But off the clock, she enjoys camping, kayaking, and playing with her dog. This is another officer I feel good about. She really helped me come out of my shell with Explorers. Her name is Sergeant Detective Shay. And in Explorers, I didn't talk much at all. I didn't talk to anyone. And she really helped me come out of my shell, talk to other explorers here, and I was able to have more fun with who I was and what I was doing. This is Officer Matt Pratt and our K-9 unit, Roxy. These two are an amazing team, and I've never seen a pair work as good as them, and I'm still amazed at what they can do. Another reason I think that we don't know these officers is the media tells us not to. What happens is the media portrays cops to be this brute force out to get you if you don't follow the law as strictly as possible. And if I asked you guys to tell me one incident you know about cops in the media, you could probably tell me something bad. But what we don't know is what happened before that bad incident, or what happened after. what we see is completely taken out of context. For example, a cop takes down a teenager, and what you see is this huge behemoth of a man taking down a teenager, and that's unfair. But what you didn't see is the kid had taken out an airsoft gun and pointed at the officer. That's no big deal, because we know it's a toy, but he didn't. These are real guns and airsoft guns, as well as some other fake brand guns, next to each other side by side. It's really easy to see how an officer would see this and fear for his life. What happens is the officer fears for his life. He's taught to survive, and his training teaches him to live another day. But we don't see that. We see the cop attacking an innocent teenager. And on top of this, on top of all the stories we hear in the media, we see a nation of law enforcement going rogue. And that's not what this is. I remember sitting in World Studies, and I was sitting across from this aide, and I remember her saying, and I quote, "It's so sad that we have to teach our kids how to act in front of police officers just to survive." And I thought that was wrong, and I was very upset, because these are the people I look up to. These are the people I really enjoy spending my time with, and they're my friends, and I can even say that they're my family. And I would never want this pinned on them. And what's even more frustrating to me is that we never get to see their good deeds. We only see the negative. Here's a relatable situation that you could probably, relate to and understand frustration. You spend a week making a killer speech for senior sem, a mandatory class, and you killed it. You absolutely just did it. You got A, you did great. But because you did so much work and put so much time into this project, you went down a few points in another project, in another class. No big deal, but with your parents, it's a whole other story. That's all they focus on is those 2 points. And that's not fair. You feel wronged because you did so well in this, this speech, and they only focus on the bad. And that's how it is with innocent officers as well. What they see is their flaws pointed out, not what they've done right. And to express this confusion and frustration they feel, I decided to make a comic. And this comic was about a cop in a small town, and it all takes place in one night shift he takes. And it takes a ride from his thoughts about, from his family at home, his pregnant wife and his son. It goes to how they're affected with these situations. It's about how he thinks of it. He's confused and frustrated why people don't like cops when he puts his life on the line for them. And he doesn't understand. What happens in the end is he gets back to the department, and it's at night. He's at the end of his shift. And what happens is he gets a call from his wife. It's a typical conversation that most couples have. They're talking about he felt the baby kick. They're talking about they're going to name him. About how his kid at home is waiting for him to come tuck him in at night and read his favorite bedtime story because he won't stop screaming. What happens is he's confronted by a stranger. And the way I show that he's a stranger is by the cop, the main cop doesn't know him. And I stressed at the beginning that he knows everyone, and he doesn't know this man. So he offers him his help. He goes, "Who are you? What do you want? Do you need something?" And the stranger holds up a gun to him. And he says, "The law needs to be put back in their place." Meanwhile, the wife is still on the phone, and she has no idea what's going on. You can hear her on the other line asking him what's wrong and who's there, but she can't see or hear. So the cop tries to calm him down, and he tries to, settle down, we can talk this out. And in the last few pages are all black, with the only thing written on them is the sound effects of gunshots and the wife on the line. She calls for her husband several times, and she's trying to get her kid to call the department to try and find him and save him. We're forced into her perspective because we have no idea what happened. It's completely dark. We can't see. She's scared, and she's worried for her husband, and she's scared that her kids won't have a father. Now you're probably wondering, "Taylor, why did you do this? You had the power to make him live." But I didn't. I didn't do it. Because this is what happens. What I wanted a jaw drop. What happens when your jaw drops is you start to think, your mind opens. This is what I wanted from the beginning. You start to think about, why did why did that man shoot him? What did he do to deserve that? He did nothing wrong. We've seen him throughout the whole thing. He was a great father. He was good at his job. Why did that happen to him? Another jaw dropper is that this was two real situations mixed into one ending. Deputy Darren H. Goforth was 47 years old. He was shot execution style at a gas pump at the end of his shift. The man came from another town, didn't even know him, but came with the intention to hunt down a cop. The other story is a family friend of mine worked at a department. She wasn't a police officer, she just helped with paperwork. And she was mugged outside the department just for being associated with the badge. These are both unfair assaults just because they are associated with that badge. And I didn't want to end this on such a gloomy topic because I wanted people to think lightly about them. So when I was making this presentation, I thought this was the best experience I could have had. I had so much fun making this comic with as many crashes and restarts as I could have imagined. I really did like this project, and I thought it was a really good time. But what I wanted to remind people was the repercussions of media association with this topic makes us think poorly of them. It makes us automatically see them as brutes force strength that try to stop us from having a good time. And that's not true. You see Sergeant Luigi. She's the queen of good time. She goes running around the halls like this and screams something. You don't even know what she said. In the end, I want to thank a bunch of people who really helped this come true. I want to thank Sergeant Luigi for letting me interview her and getting a really deep insight. And I wanted to thank the explorers for helping me volunteer with them for as many years as I already have. And I want to thank Sarah Evans for mentoring me. She didn't know much about physical art like I did, but she was a great help for keeping me moving and keeping me motivated. I would also like to thank my help back at home. She really kept me calm during this whole thing, and she really helped me keep me calm and supported this whole time. And thank you.